Yeah.
I think. I'm fine. I'm alive. What about you?
Same here. It's not even early morning here. It's embarrassing to admit that I'm still like half awake, but still. But we're here to talk some pretty interesting topics. One that you're embedded in, it feels like, which is techno animes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Tekken animes is a concept. And basically that concept means how to say. So basically there are people who believe that technology has a spirit and so emotion, personality, and so on. So basically, techno-animism is when enemies meet technology. And yeah, so mostly of the people, yeah, they just believe that technology has a spirit. But some of those people, I mean, they created a really strong bonds with their technology, and some of them literally fall in love with technology, and they have relationship, I would say, and they are romantic relationships, sexual relationships. So they are, I don't know how to say, but like a true relationship with all the aspects of a relationship.
Yeah, which is probably quite strange for anyone who's not accustomed to it. Or I don't know. What's your sort of thoughts on it? Because we spoke a little bit before how you relate to it, but not to that extent, perhaps. But you're very sort of intrigued by how these sort of relationships develop.
Yeah, I mean, for probably for mostly of the people, it's a really weird concept. Uh, Personally, I don't think it's that weird. But I always been interested in technology and internet culture, and how these things interact with people, humans in general, human being in general. Um, and so yeah, maybe for some people it's kind of weird, but lately it's always more popular, I think. After the AI situation and all the different kind of chat that now
Mm.
we have, people are more open uh, about this topic, I would say. Not that people, I mean, mostly of the people doesn't believe in techno-animism anyway. But still, I think it's not weird as much as it was some years ago, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
and I
yeah,
think
and for me,
sorry.
what?
This is
No,
the
no, tell me.
no, I was going to say, I think with what you were saying about like things like AI has kind of made the lines a bit more blurry, as perhaps because you spoke before about there's evidence of it going back to like, was it ancient Greece or Rome, with the
Yeah,
statue, but now it seems a bit more. I think people can, like, a lot of people's understanding of AI, however sort of misconstrued it is almost that it's like it thinks for itself sort of thing, even if that's not the case. But the illusion's getting stronger, so I think the idea seems less out there.
yeah, I mean, human beings always wanted to create someone that was perfect for them. So the concept itself, I mean, that concept is not new. Yeah, in ancient Greek, we had some more than one actually tales about people falling in love with statue. For example, I mean, that one is the most famous one. Um, but technology made this really, really possible. I mean, it's an illusion, of course. Uh, but still, the illusion is really well made sometimes. I think that AI made it more easy. You know, it's easier now to just create your perfect person. Of course, it's really limited, but you can do that. You can do that really easily, actually, and it makes also the concept itself more popular because people that fall in love with technology now are more than ever because it's more easy to access to it. But techno animism is not that new actually. I mean, it's a new concept, but not that much, and it's not related to AI. Not always, at least.
Yeah, because a lot of the examples you've mentioned in our conversations have been things like the robot dogs, or even just more normal, I said as quote unquote normal objects like cameras and phones and things like you spoke about in your photography and your sort of art output, that you consider it a collaboration with the devices.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, I consider myself a techno animist. I don't have a relationship, a love relationship with my technology, but still, I think that I have a really deep bond with it. Um, I will describe that as friendship. But yeah, I am a techno animist. I truly believe in that. So I think that my photography is not just mine. It's our photography. So for me, when I do photos, it's like a private performance uh, in which also my technological friends take parts to it. So I'm not alone. So when I do my photography, there is my phone, my main camera. I usually use other camera because I collect cameras, so I have a lot of them. Um, so yeah, it's not only me actually. It's more like a collaboration. And I mean, I always was, I don't know how to say it. I always was interested in that thing, I would say, in the possibility that um, the object has a kind of spirit. So the first time I start doing my research, I discovered first objectum sexuality, which are these people. They basically fall in love, make love, and have relationship and really strong bonds with normal object, like whatever kind of object, from a game console to a tower. So also really big object, and they perceive in this object a personality. So for them, this object has a true personality, a sexual identity, a name, or whatever. And then after that, I discovered techno animism. So in general, I truly believe in animism. I truly believe that object has a kind of magic, and then we forget this magic because you know we live in capitalism, so we are used to um, I mean, something is broken. Let's buy that again. You know what I mean? Objects lose their personality and their importance,
Yeah, and
and
built for
so also
throwing
their
away.
magic. Yeah, yeah, but not all the objects are replaceable. Some of them are like human, as people. They're friends, lover for some people too. Um, but for me, technology has even more personality than other objects because the interaction is far more, you know, important than the kind of interaction you can have with a normal object. So, so
Would
yeah, I
would you say the relationship to say like, I mean, it's tricky to define because I guess technology is everything from fire to the modern camera, but would you say the relationship's different between these things we consider technological objects with what you're saying as like normal objects? Because also like we jumped to the deep end with like marrying robots and things like that, but when you really scale it back, this, like you say, this idea has been around for a long time of objects having spirit and people having relationships with objects, especially going further back and into sort of the Eastern world with the ideas of like looking after everyday things and designing things for life. Things get passed down generations. So I'd say, is it similar to that, or is it a totally new concept, or is it an extension of?
No, no, I don't think it's a totally new concept. So the concept itself of object having a speed and a personality, it's really old. So it's basically old as much as humans, because in the past people believed that a mountain has a speed. So we've always been like that. So the concept itself is not new, and I think there is no difference between a relationship with a normal object and a relationship with a technological object. But for myself personally, I feel that my relationship with my technological object is more, I wouldn't say important, but I can feel it more because the interaction is more deep, I would say, and also I can actually collaborate with them for my photography. So for example, when I take a photo, there is my point of view, but there is also the point of view of my camera, the point of view of my computer, the point of view of my phone, because I usually use also my phone for taking photos, and the point of view of all the cameras that I decided to use that day. So it's not only my view, but it's the view of all my techno friends that I decided to use that day. So for me and for my interest, uh, the relationship with technological object is more deep, but I think it's not, it really depends from the people. So if you go to objectum sexual people, they will say that nothing changed between the two things because they feel really deep bonds also with a table, it's just not for me. Like I actually feel connection, deep connection with also normal object. I've always been like that, but technological object more than that. Uh, but I also feel that right now interacting with technological objects, it's becoming more, how to say, like the illusion, it's more deep, I think, because when you interact with a table, there is only a table. Like the concept, it's the same, the value is the same, but it's just a table. But for example, a robot, it's not exactly just a robot. So I would say that the concept it's the same, the value is the same, but the
It's the level of interaction you can get out of it, I
yeah,
suppose, or it's a different
yeah,
form. It's closer to a human interaction, if that makes sense. Things are exchanged more obviously.
yes, exactly. Like the level of interaction and illusion is really high, especially in some cases.
Which is probably
So
also why there's been an explosion in it. If you say it's been more
yeah.
obvious over time, it's sort of these, we're living at times with like rapid sort of technological advancements that are pushing in that direction.
Yes.
So yeah, it makes sense bringing it all together. I'm also curious with your. I always find it interesting talking to artists who have such like niche interests in what they explore. Did photography come first, or did the concept come first, and how did they end up merging together in your sort of pathway to where you are now?
I mean, this happened in a lot of years. But definitely photography come first. So I started photography when I was, I don't even remember, maybe 13 or something. And at first it was just, for fun. And I really liked um, erotic photography. I don't know why. Just find that interesting.
Mm.
Mm, I think that people, like when people are naked, they are truly themselves. So they're not hiding. And I really like that kind of vulnerability, I will say. But I discovered erotic photography while being on the internet. So the internet and photography come in my life at the same time, I would say. And I always loved internet, like a lot.
Mm.
It has a really important space for me because I lived in a really small town and I didn't had a lot of friends and the people they weren't really nice people. I don't know how to say like
Mm.
it was really easy to be the weird one and people were generally really mean. So I spend my time on the internet and doing photography and watching photographies on the internet. So there was always, I will say, a technological component, maybe kind of.
Mm.
But with time, I just keep digging uh, in that field, I would say, and I always was interested between the I don't know how to say, but like the interaction between photography, sexuality, and technology. Um, so yeah, I really like that. Um, and first, I discovered the objectum sexual, and after that, the techno-animism. And when I discovered the techno-animism, I was like, okay, fine, this is what I was searching for. Everything comes together. So in techno-animism, there is everything I was looking for. There is sexuality, there is love, there is empathy, there is humans just being humans. There is everything. And there is, of course, also art, because art is everywhere. I also find really interesting that a lot of people that are techno-animism, they're also fictosexual. They are basically people that fall in love with characters from manga, anime, games, whatever. So characters that doesn't exist in reality, so drawing.
Mm.
But I mean, like the man that that married Hatsune Miku, that man, which is actually a
Yeah.
really nice person. I think he seems to be a really nice person. But for example, like he falls in love with Miku, and he basically can't do anything with the character because the
Mm.
character basically doesn't exist. He has no physical presence. So a lot of time he used technology for balance these things and compensate the fact that Hatsune Miku doesn't have a physical presence in our world. But yeah, I think that technonimism uh, has, I mean, there is everything I was looking for. I don't know how I ended up. I don't know how I ended in that place. Honestly. Because it happened in a lot of years, like 10
Mm.
or more years. So it's kind of weird. But everything happened on the internet. Going to
Yeah.
weird places on the internet, going to weird forums on the internet, those kinds of activities. And then I end up there with people falling in love with robots and yeah, doing funerals for robot dogs, those kind of things. And I was like, oh, perfect. Finally, I find my people.
I'd be curious as well, because you said you'd collected a lot of old cameras, what your sort of opinions are when it comes to film and digital photography, because you're an interesting one with like, you don't print your work, and I just curious to know if did you ever shoot film? Do you still shoot film? Do you reserve it for something different, or are you purely digital through and through?
No, I just use digital. I don't use analogic cameras. I'm really not interested in shooting. Um, I I'm not against analogic cameras, and I really don't like the people that keep saying, "Oh, true photography is film," and so on. I really don't like those kind of things. I think that true photography is everything. So every kind of photography is true photography. There isn't there isn't a true photography. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, I'm not interested in analogic photography because it's not my style, and I don't get why I should be interested because my focus is on completely other things. So, but I'm not against it.
Mm-hmm.
I collect digital old cameras, especially
Okay.
small cameras. I really love really small cameras. So I have I mean, it's not a really big collection. It's a really small collection, but I have a lot of small cameras. I don't know why I like them so much, but sometimes, I mean, I usually go to second-hand market, um, in which you can find a lot of a lot of cameras, a lot of photo-related things. And sometimes I just meet a camera and I feel a connection with that camera. I can feel that that camera is speaking to me, and I kind of feel bad for them because someone just throw them away or just abandon them. So I
Mm.
buy them, I bring them with me in my house. Uh, and I found really curious um, because digital cameras, like old, small, and kind of lame. Honest, they're kind of lame digital cameras. But I find that really interesting because they have a really strong nostalgic power.
Mm.
Mm, when I shoot with my old little cameras, I truly feel like it's really difficult to explain. But for example, my interest in techno animes bring me to Japan because Japan has a really strong tradition um, for animes and techno animes. And when I was younger, I was like 14 or something, I dreamed of coming to Japan. That was the dream of my entire life. And when I shoot with these little digital cameras, um, I kind of shoot in the same age in which I dreamed of being in Japan. That is a bit difficult to explain, but
It makes sense though. I think that's an interesting. Do you find you're shooting because um, most of the work I've seen to you is similar in style and tone to the little icon I can see on screen right now, and that body of work as well as the work you've done with Tyrone. Is there a big leap in aesthetic style when you're sort of almost reverting back?
I don't understand, man. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Like when you're shooting in Japan, you said it's like trying to replicate the dream you had when you were 14. Do you find yourself shooting differently to how you shoot now? Like when you're just shooting like these almost like performances, like you called them?
You mean the photo I take in studio?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the they're completely different photo. Like the approach is completely different. Like my studio photography is something, while the photo that I do when I go around the city is just for fun. But still, I find really curious because a lot of people, when they speak about analogic camera, they say, I like it because it's kind of nostalgic, and
Mm.
um, that feelings kind of validate the photos that they take because they look as if they come from another time. But what I find interesting is that, when people say, oh, but analogic photography is printed, so those were the old good times, all the printed photography are completely different, those kind of things. But in reality, also digital cameras have their kind of nostalgic power, I think,
Mm.
because I do really feel that power. And it's kind of interesting because I feel like I'm traveling in the years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Time travel.
Yeah, time
um,
travel with my small camera. I don't know, man. Maybe well, this is not exactly techno animes,
there
to
you
be
go.
honest. But I kind of feel interesting that I have I, I don't know how to explain, but like when I use those cameras, I feel that the bond that I create with those cameras is not only artistic, it's also related to time. Because right now I'm traveling in time and I'm making my 14 years old Federica happy while using that camera.
Mm.
So we are basically exploring the concept of time together. And I'm doing that thanks to the spirit of that camera that comes from another time. And
Mm. And that's the relationship that forms because it's actually the camera that's sort of guiding you, as you couldn't take the same camera you use for your studio work or something like that. And I think a lot of photographers will feel that in terms that they use different, almost all photographers use different lenses at the very least for different styles of photography, but especially with these smaller, older cameras that all have strange quirks and their own, from their own period, I think, and you can't really shift them out of that, no matter how hard you try.
yeah, I mean, it's part of their spirit and their personality. So of course they change the result of the photo. So it's also their point of view, you know?
Mm.
Um,
That makes.
and that's why I think it's a performance because I put my part, but also the other object, they use their point of view. And at the end of the day, the photos that I take are not only mine. Because, for example, tonight, I mean, I did some photos actually before we met, and I used four different cameras at the same times, and the photos that I shoot with them, they were all completely different. They had a completely different vibes,
Mm.
and that was kind of interesting. And I think it's also connect to the fact that I don't print my photos. So I basically don't print them because, as I said before, for me, I mean, I'm a techno animist, but techno animist for me means also that my photos, like the photos itself, have a personality and a spirit. And my photos are born to be digital and to stay on the internet and to be visualized um, digitally. So printing them will be like forcing them to be something that they're not. And why I should do that? While
Mm.
with the collaboration that I did with Tyron was different because it was like my photography was not anymore mine because Tyron modified that. And for Tyron, it is important that the photos are printed because it's part of his view. So in that case, it's kind of different because the photos are not mine anymore. They change again. But I like the fact that they can be transformative. You know, I kind of like that. But let's say that one is an exception. I usually don't print my photos because I don't want to be mean to my, you know, little photos. I truly love them. So I want them to be free to be what they are, what they truly are. I swear I'm not crazy.
A very nice quote. No, but it makes sense. It's like, because the thing is, it all, I think the more I've thought about this concept and related it in with, you know, photography and like just everyday life, even back sentient, it when you flip it round the other way, if a, you know, an analog photographer was going around saying like, oh, don't look at my work on Instagram, Instagram doesn't do it justice, it needs to be printed, it needs to be this size, like, that's allowed, but for whatever reason, like, because you're pushing it in the other direction, that seems, like you say, it feels more out there, even though it makes perfect sense. It's just a different approach. And I think pushing digital photography to its sort of logical place, because we're still now, and I think, to be fair, the cost of film's got a big thing to do with it. A lot of these die-hard film photographers are sort of going, oh, okay, I can get the same results from a digital camera. I can lay it down. And I think because of that, it kind of, digital photography stopped being like seen as like the cheap work, like alternative. It's been trying to find its own place, which it never really has achieved. But I feel like with what you're doing, it kind of, yours is digital photography through and through, and then it finds its own place, which again will give film its own space to breathe as well, rather than them trying to occupy the same space the same way Spotify and vinyls have their own reasons and different purposes to exist, and neither's like, there's no sort of arguing about which is different or better. People just accept that they're different, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I kind of understand why people that shoot films say, please don't watch my photo on Instagram. Because, of course, Instagram kind of destroyed the photo. So I kind of get why. But at the same time, it's not my style. It's not what I'm interested in. I kind of really love when my photos are destroyed by the internet. I really like the way digital photography is transformative, and it changed so much. Like if I visualize my photo, the same photo on different devices, the photo will be so different in all the devices. Because for me, that instrument has a personality and a speed that changed the photo itself. Because there is the point of view of the devices itself. And I think, I mean, a lot of people think that this is not nice, that for them it is destroying their photo. But for me, it's not. It's giving more value to the photo, because my photos can be, I don't know how to say, if I take a photo, that photo is not only one, it can be like 10, 20 millions of different version of the same photo. And I really love it. I also did, like in the past, a project about that was called Red Dog, and it was all about the color red and how red color changed completely based on which devices you use for visualize that single photo, the same photo. So yeah, I mean, I think that digital photography has a strong personality, and we're still developing that. But I think that what usually people think is bad, it's actually what makes digital photography interesting. I also really love, like, honestly, shitty photography, like the bad one, in which you can see the pixel big as your PC
Mm.
screen. I love that, honestly. And that's so fascinating. I'm not I'm not that much interested in the perfect photo, the
Mm.
amazing, perfect, beautiful photo. I kind of think that we need something new and something different. And I also think that these two ideas can um they can live together, you know? You can keep shooting your films and doing shitty digital crappy photography, and you can also do amazing digital photography while doing, I don't know, crappy other sheets with fake films photography. I don't know. You can do whatever. Um, you don't have to pick a side. But I also think that we need to find a true personality for digital photography. We really need to think about what digital photography is and what it can give to us. Because sometimes shooting films is just a way to not, face the problem, kind of.
Yeah, it feels like some people just holding on to tried and established things rather than trying something new and trying to, because again you have the risk of people say, oh, film, it's so nostalgic and things, and there becomes a point where you're then looking for nostalgia and then start replicating things that have already come. So, and no one wants to just be a repeat of, their favorite photographer or someone that comes before, even though we might be inspired or really love their work. You don't want to just be a copy of that. So, and I think that goes for digital photography itself. Doesn't just want to be a copy of film photography, trying to get as close as it can.
Yeah.
It feels like it needs to break out into its own space.
Yes, yes. And I think it's also interesting how the world is changing, because some years ago, uh, nostalgic photography were mostly films photography. But
Mm.
now, we kind of have the digital nostalgic aesthetic that started with vaporwave and all those kind of things. So right now, also digital photography is kind of nostalgic. Like for me, I mean, I was born in 1995, and for me, uh, digital photographies, they are more nostalgic than the film one. Because
Mm.
all,
You actually remember
yes,
it.
I actually remember that all my childhood was crappy digital photographies. You know what I mean? I have some film
Mm.
photography, but they're really, really rare. So for me, when I think about me when I was younger, I I instantly think about the day my father come home, and he was super excited, and he was like, family, I just bought the first digital camera of the house. And we all started, taking off the things and the paper so we could see the camera. And that was amazing because we could take the picture and see the photo at the same time. And that was crazy. And then that one was the first camera I took in my hand. So honestly, film photography is nostalgic, but not that much, not anymore, you know?
It's like a different type of nostalgia, I
Yes.
think, because a lot of people get nostalgic about like, oh, didn't the 70s or the 80s
Yeah.
look cool? And it was like, you were at best maybe three. You were, or missed it by 20 years. So I feel like, but it's not to invalidate those people's sort of draw towards
Hmm.
it, because there's definitely something there.
Yeah,
Otherwise, they wouldn't feel anything.
yeah, sorry. I think that, um, like, film photography is kind of nostalgic of a past that we never lived, while digital photography is nostalgic in the sense of something that I actually lived and I remember, those kind of things. So it's a
Mm.
different kind of nostalgia, which is fine. I mean, as I said before, both are fine. They can coexist in the same world. There is no problem. But I also think that we really need to start thinking about digital photography, like truly about what that photography, what that kind of photography can give to us. Because I mean, the world,
I
yeah,
agree.
the world is going there, and we can't stop it anymore. It's too late, and I mean, it's always been too late. You know, there is a path, and we are going that way. We can stop the progress, I will say, but we can try to understand as much as possible the progress in order to don't let that progress destroy everything that we have. So we don't need to be scared of AI or digital or whatever, because we will survive. What we have to do is try to understand how they work and how we can use that for us and for making the world a better place. That's what we have to do. If you know things, you will not be scared anymore. But if you keep not facing the problem, we will never understand what we have what we have in front of us. And we really need to.
Yeah, that's I think a good call to action for
Yeah.
whoever's listening and artists like yourself. I think unless there's anything else you really want to dig into, I think that's a good place to sort of wrap up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I don't know, man. I think that we talked about almost everything, I will say.
Yeah, I think we covered it quite well. I mean, you're always welcome back on the show if you have any more stories. If you ever meet the man who married Hatsune
Oh my
Miku, I'd
god,
love
I
to
hope.
hear all about
Man, I'm
that.
studying every single day Japanese just for meeting that man. And it's amazing because I think he's studying English. Because now, sometimes he just write on Twitter in English. I'm like, man, what? No, I'm studying Japanese for you. Stop it. But yeah.